Hi everyone, my name is Claire and today I'm interviewing my mother, so please stick around. Hi friends, my name is Claire and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here I make content about what it is like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the bell.
I didn't do too bad.
No, you did great. But we almost forgot to mention that we put out videos 3 times a week. You're a natural, Mommy.
I am.
Hi, everyone. So this is my mother, Kathy.
Kathy. No one has ever called me Kathleen.
But me. This is my mother, Kathy, and I am visiting her right now in Pennsylvania, and she has kindly agreed to share her perspective with you on what it was like raising a brat.
Not really a brat, just a challenge.
A challenge, okay. So I have just a few questions. So what is it like raising such a beautiful, talented, successful person? I mean,
I thought you said YouTube star.
Yeah, YouTube star. All right, so I put together a few questions about me and autism, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. As I was undiagnosed until I hit adulthood, what was the first thing that went through your mind when I first told you that I thought I might be on the autism spectrum?
I was a little bit unsure because you've been quirky your whole life, but I really didn't know enough about autism.
To have
And I just thought it was the stereotypical 8-year-old boy who's off the wall and nonverbal. To be honest, that's what I thought it meant.
Okay.
Until I started doing some research on my own and realizing that.
When you say off the wall, do you mean like behavioral issues?
And you had enough behavioral issues, but you weren't what I know a lot of people who have little boys who are on the spectrum and they're very hard to control.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the definition of what being on the spectrum was.
Okay. So you were just unsure when I told you. So that was about 2 years ago. How are you feeling about my diagnosis now that you've had some time to let it sink in and you know more about autism?
I think it explains your personality a little bit more. And some of the behaviors that I thought were quirky are just part of what being on the spectrum is. And I think that it explains some of the struggles that you were having that me as a mom tried to just explain away.
Now that you know about my diagnosis, looking back, is there anything about my childhood that sticks out to you as a sign that I was on the spectrum in particular?
How brutally honest you were from a very young age.
Very young.
Very young age. You used to tell people that they needed to find a new barber because their haircuts were so bad. You told my friends they needed to change the brand of deodorant that they used because they were stinky. I would have to tell you that you were inappropriate and you just didn't seem to understand why because you were only being honest.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a big one. I totally agree with that. That's really funny.
It was funny. It wasn't funny at the time because
you smell.
Because did you get a haircut?
You should go to someone else.
Someone else. It's not nice.
What about like some of the other things looking back? Because I was in speech therapy and I was in reading class and I almost failed kindergarten. Do you think like those were indicators too?
Not really, because I had worked with children my whole life, and there was a lot of what they were issues that I saw in other children too.
Right.
You know, writing your threes backwards when you're 5 years old, I don't think is an issue.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So some of that I just pushed aside and just went, okay, you know, that's just normal.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges of raising an undiagnosed child?
I think
Puberty.
15-year-old Claire was not nice.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
It was crazy here. My blood pressure was through the roof. And enough that we checked into counseling.
Yeah.
Things that were not good. And everyone wanted a daughter just like you. Every teacher bragged about how wonderful you are. Every club you were in used you as an example. And then you got home.
Right, but now we know it was because I was masking through the day, and then when I got home, I couldn't hold the mask up anymore.
No, and you felt safe enough with me, which I had to hear that.
Yeah.
The therapist said that you knew that you could let it down with me because I would love you no matter what.
Yeah. It's still hard to think about, though. I love you.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was terrible.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It was a bad time. I was having meltdowns a lot. And you guys thought I was on drugs, but it wasn't drugs, it was just autism.
But you're my best friend now. So,
yeah.
Which is hard to believe. I never thought that I would like you.
I know. It was tough,
bad.
guys.
It was
tough.
It's bad.
And you know, that's one of the reasons that I want to make YouTube videos, because not just for, you know, kids who might be on the spectrum to find out earlier, but I know, like, how difficult it was for you as a parent, and just to be like so unsure about why.
Well, a couple of my friends now have told me that they've started watching your videos because of that they see the signs in their own kids.
Right.
And that they didn't understand it. Yeah. Well, it puts some explanation in some of the behaviors, because some of it seems so off the wall that, you know, how do you explain it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah. And you did think things were funny, and which would escalate it.
Yeah, I mean, I just never had the right response to what was going on. I think the biggest thing for me is I always felt like, especially when I was upset, I never felt like you heard me or I was being listened to. And now I know that those communication issues were on my side, and they weren't on your side. So, like, even if you were communicating with me, I didn't feel like I was being communicated with, but it wasn't because of you, it was because of me.
Yeah, those feelings are valid, so...
Yeah, I mean,
no
it's just...
No matter what, but if you know at a younger age that there's symptoms that are there that point you towards being on the spectrum, then as a parent, I think that it would give you more of an understanding
of how to
what's
deal
happening
with
it, so that you're not thinking, you know, like, what the heck is happening with Claire? Why isn't she even listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah. I couldn't hear you at all. What were some of the benefits of raising a child on the spectrum? Like some good things, you think? Because we try to talk about both on my channel.
But how highly creative you are.
Yeah.
You have always been creative in all aspects, whether it was something that was... Everything you did was 100% or more. No, more. Most of the time, more.
Yeah. Looking back, is there anything you would have changed about raising me if you had known I was on the spectrum?
I don't think that's even a question I would know how to answer.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't have taken things so personally.
Yeah.
Because I just thought you were...
mean.
You were acting out to me.
Yeah.
So I think I would have been able to... Once the counselor told me that the reason that you behaved so badly with me, because I got the brunt of it,
yeah,
was because I was your safe person.
Mm-hmm.
That changed.
Oh, that helped.
That helped immensely.
Yeah.
I needed to hear that.
And that was obviously way before we even knew I was on the spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was when you're 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, you already kind of answered this, but How would you say we got along throughout my childhood?
It was a torment sometimes, at times.
It was really hard.
It was
You
hard.
always tell people that.
I can't believe that you're my best friend. I can't believe it. I can't believe that, because I remember telling you I love you, but I do not like you. I do not like your behavior.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
I was definitely.
So, and when that period changed, where then I realized that all of a sudden you were my best friend, like I just could not believe that was possible.
How do you feel like our relationship has changed since I was diagnosed?
I think a little bit. I think a little bit because I'm coming at it from understanding who you are a bit better.
Mm-hmm. I feel too. I am more inclined to know that I need to ask you about how you're doing and listening to how you're doing, as opposed to like something autists do a lot is only talk about themselves, because like they don't really care
Well, you know
about.
what I think really makes a difference too, that now that you're medicated for your obsessive compulsive, that has made a huge difference.
Absolutely.
You're
Like
not so. I remember telling you when you were in college that when things were going well, that you didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And I used to tell you that I thought that you manufactured things to go wrong because you thrived better when things were stressful.
Right. But really, I was just mentally ill.
Yeah. Well, that's being honest. That's just
No, absolutely.
because,
Yeah.
I don't. Now I know a little bit better that that's not where that was coming from, and that some of it that you were masking how you really felt.
Yeah. Do you ever feel any like sense of, and you don't have to, but do you ever feel any like guilt that you didn't know about my OCD or my autism earlier?
I feel guilt that I told you that you should not try medication.
I remember that. Yeah. And I didn't take medication for a really long time because of that.
Yeah. That's where I feel guilt, because once I saw the change in your personality, once you were properly medicated, and that took a long time for you to find
The right
something
thing.
that worked. But I felt guilty that I told you that I thought that you could do it on your own. Well, even in the before you were medicated, I started to realize that the importance of medication, and that it wasn't a weakness to need the medication, and that God uses medication.
Absolutely.
That it's not something, because in Christian circles, a lot of times it's taken as a weakness if you need medication, and I don't believe that now. I think that it's a tool that God uses.
Did I have friends growing up?
Not friends in the aspect that it was kids that you got together with all the time. It was kind of sporadic. We were with friends last night that you grew up with.
Yeah.
A young man that we consider your brother.
Mm-hmm.
And we were joking because when you were little, he was afraid of you.
Yeah, I was pretty scary.
Well,
I was
you
mean.
were aggressive.
Yeah, I was aggressive.
You were aggressive.
Yeah, I feel now that I don't want to pre-diagnosis lessen the friendships that I had. They were just very different because I was very different. I didn't know how to be a good friend or what a friendship should look like. Oh, the next question was would you say I'm your best friend now?
Mm-hmm. You are. We joke all the time because there's people who say, "What do you mean you talk to your mother every day?" And friends talk to each other.
Yeah.
So it's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing.
Yeah, and I think before my OCD treatment, a lot of it was like reassurance seeking, but now it's more just a friendship where we check in with each other.
The OCD stuff was alarming to me when it was happening because I didn't understand that OCD could be in your thought life.
Right.
I thought it was just the repetitive hand washing or
the
locking the door. You were terrible with the locking the doors, but which I knew that was signs of OCD, but I didn't understand that OCD could be in your thought life.
I didn't know either.
So
but
it explained some of the things that you were saying to me, the fears that you were having.
Yeah, like I didn't realize that the intrusive thoughts were the OCD. Like I thought it was just that I was like a terrible, simple person having these thoughts.
Well, like what we're just talking about, the stereotypical autism.
Right.
You know, we think of the stereotypical OCD, and there's just so many forms.
How do you feel that I've changed since receiving my diagnosis from your perspective?
I think that you have a better understanding of the people who are around you and some of the behaviors that they may have that you used to take personally.
Okay.
Okay. If there was a behavior that you didn't understand, now you kind of try to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And understand, that maybe they're coming from a different place.
So you feel that I perceive people differently since my diagnosis. I'm more understanding of other people.
You're more understanding of other people.
Yeah, I always just thought that everyone was stupid and I was having to deal with it. It's so mean. That like everyone was just like off and that I was right. So, and I had to like deal with it and it was hard for me. But really, it was me.
Really, you were the one that was off?
Like some bad cheese or something. Maybe we kind of went through this, but how do you feel our relationship has changed since my diagnosis?
I feel that we've gotten closer. It's been, you're only here 2 days already, and I just can't believe that we don't get to spend more time together.
How many of my subscribers are you?
Just 2.
Just 2? Okay, just 2. That's not
Just
bad.
2.
That's not bad.
Well, because I have 2.
I wouldn't call
2
that like
channels.
YouTube fraud or anything.
No, just 2.
Final question. What piece of advice would you want to give to parents who might think their children are neurodiverse or neurologically different and they're not sure what they should do next? Like, what would you want them to know?
Well, I know from talking to some parents that there are different organizations that can help you get your children diagnosed. Mm-hmm. I know that sometimes it's a costly diagnosis depending on what your insurance covers and it doesn't. But there are organizations in every area that specialize in children with autism. Because I think the sooner the diagnosis, the easier it will be for the child through their childhood, especially if their symptoms aren't as severe as what we think is stereotypical.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that they can excel in. It's not a death sentence.
Right. I think
there's a lot of positive aspects to autism.
Right.
And we have to look at it that way. It's just that
it's
you're
backing
gifted
into it in a different
You're
direction.
gifted in a different way.
Right. So
it's not a bad thing like being neurodiverse or neurotypical. There is not a good one and a bad one. They're just different. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming on my show today.
Thanks for having me.
I love you.
You're the cutest thing ever.
Oh, only second to you, Mom.
Well, and the cat.
And the cat.
And the cat. Well, thanks for having me, because I think that a lot of people have to understand what it's like from both sides.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted, I thought that my viewers would be really interested in hearing from you, because most of my viewership, I think, is late diagnosed. And, it's a lot to work through at any age, I'm sure, but then you really think about your early childhood and your upbringing and what that was like and what it could have been like, and it's just a lot to work through. So I thought it would be helpful if you
extremely helpful
addressed the nation.
At least your 850 viewers.
Right, soon to be 1,000.
Yeah, because we're going to ask you to share this with all of your friends, because we want 1,000 before Christmas.
Help make my Christmas great. I need my $20 a month check from YouTube. Well, anyway. Everyone, I hope that...
I get this weird sense of humor from her.
Yeah, that's how genetics work. Anyway, thank you again. I hope that everyone has a great day. if you have any more questions for my mother or comments, leave them down below, and we'd be happy to answer them. And I will see you on Friday. Bye.